All right, guys, welcome back to my channel. It is a beautiful Sunday morning here in Conroe, Texas. It is 11:30 a.m. in the morning. And today I have a special guest, Randy Bingham, who happens to be the director of sales, co-founder of Rhythm Audio. If you don't know who Rhythm Audio is by now, I don't know where you're hiding, but as you know, you should know actually, that they are the importer of Goldman Electronics, Martin loudspeakers, and Luxman plus Jorma cables. Randy, you are in the hot seat, my man. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to my new studio and lab here in Texas.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Are you happy to be here? You ready for the tough questions?
We'll see. No, I am. I'm glad to be here.
I actually have some great questions, guys, for Randy. A lot of these are going to be tough questions, okay? I wanted to embark on different content, something fresh, something new. I want to have, as you can see, a very polished set with different camera angles. Go to Randy really quick, please, so people can see Randy. As you can see, Randy now is on the screen, and then we can go to a wide angle. Okay, we're doing something next level here at Jay's Audio Lab. So if you have a big screen TV right now, you should be watching this on 4K. It is in 4K resolution at the moment. And hopefully you can hear our audio. Okay, so what is the audience telling us right now?
Okay. Nothing yet.
All right, cool. So, Randy, should we get started, Randy, or first tell us a little bit about what you're doing here in town right now at the moment? What brought you to Texas?
So, the Grid, which is our local dealer, and you've talked about them some, and so went and visited them, and my wife and I, Sophia and I, have been kind of just hanging out and visiting the area, and I knew that I was going to be here on the hot seat, or in the hot seat.
You're the first person to be in the hot seat, so I know there's going to be other manufacturers and distributors that will follow, and that's part of the rule. The condition here is if you want to be on this channel, you got to take that hot seat, and you got to be willing to answer my questions in front of my audience. So this is going to be a new series of live streams that I'm going to be conducting, and of course you can replay it. If you are not able to make it, you can watch it later on today in your big screen TV. Are you ready for my questions, Randy?
Sure. Yes, I'm ready.
All right, cool. So first question is, how did you get started in this business, this HiFi business?
Well, I grew up in a house that was, I always had music around, which was great. My parents were musicians. Fortunately, my parents had a nice stereo. My brother had a really great stereo, which I actually use in my office today. And so I was around music my whole life. I love it, and I just like being around it, being around a better system, getting closer to the artist. I didn't know it at the time, but that's what that was like for me. And then when I was in 1998, actually, I went to work for a local retailer called the Federated Group. And then after I worked there, worked over for several other local retailers. And then in 1995, I went to work for a manufacturer. I worked for Bob Carver for 10 years. And Bob and I had been friends since I was very young. When I was about 18 or 19 years old, I must have called him 200 times. And finally one day his secretary said, "Randy, if I get him on the phone for you, will you please stop calling here?" So I said yes, and Bob and I became friends. I later worked for him. Then later, after that, I worked for Carver Pro. Did some cool stuff there with some sound reinforcement stuff and working with artists. After that, I went to work for Dan at Krell. And then I started working on after that I started working on the distributor side. I also worked for Musical Fidelity for about a year. And then I worked for a couple distributors, and then 2 years ago Craig and I decided to start Rhythm.
And that's how Rhythm Audio was born.
That is how Rhythm Audio was born.
That's a very interesting backstory. But as you know, every business has challenges. This is a brand new venture for you because now you are the director of sales and you have a lot of responsibility on your shoulders. Talk to us a little bit about these challenges that many of us do not know. I don't really know the challenges as a distributor, and I certainly know my audience has no clue either. Can you tell us a little bit about what are some of the challenges as a distributor?
Yes, it's interesting because even though I worked for other distributors and I was very involved, there were things that happened that I wasn't prepared for. Craig and I weren't prepared for. So I'll just give you an example. So when we get ready for a show, the products always come, or if it's a review unit, the product comes to our house, and I want to experience it as a customer would. So what I do is I got some product from a manufacturer. The crate comes in, and I start taking the crate apart and stuff. As soon as I take the lid off, there's all these boxes thrown just in the crate, just loose. And I'm a bit bewildered, so I start pulling out the boxes, and it has different labels on it. I could tell it was addressed to somebody. This was clearly just empty. This was shipments that this company had received. Now they were using it for packaging for this product that I just got to my house. And at first, I wasn't making the connection, and I thought the equipment inside had been stolen, and it was a very expensive product. As I started digging down, I realized that this was the packaging that this company used. And it took me, 3 or 4 hours to get the equipment out, set up, plugged in, turned on, warmed up. And then after I started listening for a few minutes, I noticed that one side was 6 to 10 dB louder than the other. Couldn't figure out why. And I switched the RCAs, just did all kinds of things. My point is that product was received in that manner. So then I called the manufacturer. I had to take the top cover off. We found out that if I left the top cover off, the channel stayed the same. So he proposed that I leave it like that for some time while I'm listening, which obviously I wasn't going to do. So then he has me working on it and just doing all of these things. So we end up boxing this product up and shipping it off to a really great repair facility that we have. And he created about 3 pages of repairs where the product had wrong parts in it, undervalued parts. It was remarkable. There were wires pinched under transformers. There was just all kinds of stuff. And this was a brand new product. And there were several other things that happened with other products. So I thought that we would get a product and it would be great and they would have the same intentionality in their production and manufacturing as other companies I did business with and that I worked for. And that's not the case. So Jay, what's been one of the biggest surprises is you think that a company is going to have the same standard as you might have when you worked for a manufacturer. And it's not true. Another quick story, we got some turntables. The first one I opened up, it had a hole in the plinth that was 2 inches.
Wow.
And so then I'm like looking around inside, the piece of wood's gotta be inside. No, it wasn't even in the box, which meant it left the factory like that. Later, we send one of those units to a reviewer to be reviewed. And as soon as he turns it on, it starts making mechanical noise. We ship a second turntable, and this is an expensive turntable, to that same reviewer, same thing. So both turntables that we shipped to this person didn't work. It had some type of damage. We still have those today. So we learned very quickly that we need to really understand the brands that we're doing and how they take care of their customers, how they treat us. I mean, because look, they're dating us at that point.
Agreed, yes.
That's the best
Absolutely.
It's going to get for us.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing that I learned and Craig learned, that just because we assume a standard's going to happen, it absolutely is not. So we are very careful with the brands that we have now, and the brands that we have in our lineup, you can rest assured that it's of high quality. It's shipped in a respectful manner. When you open it up, it's going to be as it should be. It's that gift that you saved for to buy for yourself, and it should be an experience.
Absolutely.
It shouldn't be a hassle.
And we're going to get into that because I have some really interesting questions when it comes to that, the word hassle and the challenges. But let's talk about a part of this relationship that you have with these brands. And we're not gonna name drop anything here. I want you to talk about the financial investment as a distributor. Because to my understanding, I don't know if this is the case with Rhythm Audio, as a distributor, you are supposed to buy X amount of product every year. And if you don't sell it, I don't know what the stipulations are. What happens with excess inventory? If you're committed to buying, let's say $200,000 a year, that's your commitment to the brand. What happens if you don't sell that? What happens? Does that roll over to the next year? How does that work for a distributor?
Well, for us, it's not the same for all of our partners. So there's two of our partners. We have a hard number that is under contract, and another company that we have, it's a handshake, and they just know that we do our best. But Jay, what matters here is that we spend so much time talking to our partners that they know what we're up to. So let's say that we get to the end of the year and we're shorter on our number, but they see all of the things that we're doing every day, and they know that we're doing shows and advertising and doing all the things right to create a long-term plan of success. They're going to be our partner and support us. They don't want us dumping product. We're not going to dump product. And we make it very clear with our partners, if you're not into this for the long haul and you can't be patient with our process, we're probably not the right people for you. And that's okay.
Is there a minimum amount of dollar amount that you have to be invested in? How does that work, those partners?
From a revenue standpoint?
Yeah, like for example, yeah. So like if you take on brand X, do they all have different expectations as far as sales? And if they do, when they come to you, let's say, look, here's Jay's Audiolot product. I want you to be my distributor in Europe. And if I throw a number at you and I say, your commitment has to be $500,000 a year, can you push back on those numbers? Are those open to discussion, those figures?
Yes, and if somebody gives us a number like that and we say that's not realistic and we're not going to commit to that number in the first year, and they press, we're not the right people for them, and they should find somebody else.
That's just plain and simple.
Plain and simple.
You've had those conversations with.
We've had those conversations. We've told people we're not the right fit for you. We suggest this person or this person, and that's okay. We want partners that are invested in us and that will support our decisions and trust us. And trust us to build a long-term plan for them and the brand. And it takes time. It takes time, it takes money. There's nothing worse than a company or a distributor or a manufacturer that sells straight to a dealer to load up dealers that can't sell it. It hurts everybody.
Agreed.
And it devalues the brand, sorry.
Let me ask you, are there any stipulations under which you can be terminated as a distributor? By the manufacturer?
Yeah.
What would those be?
Unethical behavior, lying, transshipping out of the country, just bad behavior, being a bad actor.
That's interesting, because I was under the impression that because it is a higher grade of a relationship within the hierarchy, right? You are a distributor, and many people see that as a higher relationship than a dealer would have with a distributor. That makes sense. As you go up the hierarchy ladder, I would expect for that to be a little harder to be terminated. Meaning, is it basically up to them to decide what terminates you? Is it written like, if you do this automatically voids it's done. Breach of contract, we're done with you. If you do, is that something that is laid out that way?
I think that when you have brands that really have good pedigree and they want to be protected and represented in the right way, they'll terminate you. You know, there's other brands that they just want the number, I suspect. So they may look the other way when certain things happen. Our partners don't do that, and we're okay with that, because we both expect there's a problem, and we're going to talk about it, and if something happens that's really egregious, I don't want to work with them, and they don't want to work with us. If they can't trust us to represent their brand and not ship it to another country, you know, we should be fired if we did that.
Yep, agreed. Speaking of dealers, I know I touched up briefly on dealers and their relationship that they have with the distributor, but here's a question I have for you. Who has the harder job, the distributor or the dealer?
I think if they're both, well, first of all, they're different. Okay, I started in retail and I've done both. And I think if people are doing a good job, like a dealer, if their dealer's doing a good job, it's really hard work. They have to get up every day. They don't just walk in. There are some dealers that walk in and they just turn the lights on and put the open sign up, and that's it. That's what they do. But a really good dealer, they have so many things that they're doing all the time. And because of that, it's hard. It's hard to carry a certain amount of lines and understand who you are as a dealer and not carry too many lines and stay in your position. Because when you have people coming to you all the time, you might want to carry other brands that don't the position that you set in the marketplace. And the same thing goes for a distributor. You know, for us, we advertise a lot. We are very patient and deliberate with our rollout of dealers, and that takes something. So doing that takes a lot of discipline. So I think if it's done correctly, both are really hard.
Let me ask you a question actually that has been answered by a friend of mine, Elliot, who happens to be an importer of a loudspeaker brand here in the US. But I'm going to ask you the same question that I've already asked him. How hard is it to find dealers to represent your brands, to sell your products?
Well, it's easy to find dealers. So, but finding the right dealers for the brands that you represent, it takes some discipline. And, you know, I've been working on this side of the fence since 1995, so I know a lot of dealers that are out there. And always what dealer can do, sell which product really well. We have Luxman dealers. When we first got Luxman last year, there was a couple dealers I wanted to be in our stable of dealers, and I called them, and they came on board because I knew they would be perfect for Luxman, and they have been outstanding. Goldman, same thing. You know, I think that you just have to know who you're selling to and be willing to say no.
You said you select dealers and you have handpicked these dealers. But I want you to tell us a little more about the qualifications. What do they have to have in order to be qualified to work with you?
Well, they need a good showroom. They need to be able to display the product in a way that is representative of that product. So the expectations for the showroom for a Martin Goldman dealer might be different than it is for a Luxman dealer.
Agreed, yes. I could totally see that.
Yeah. So, and for, let's just go with Goldman, a dealer has to have other lines that will complement the Goldman brand. They have to know how to speak to that customer. They have to know to give that customer the proper experience, because a Goldman customer or somebody that's really looking at that level of product, they want to have an experience. They want to be able to come in and listen, and they want to hear that system shown in its best light. So we want to make sure that a Goldman dealer, for example, doesn't top out at speaker here and then it doesn't properly show off the product.
And would you say that the reason why you kind of have different expectations for different dealers based on the product that you carry? To your point, you have Luxman, but that a dealer that qualifies to be a representative of Luxman is not necessarily the same dealer that would qualify to sell Goldman or Martin, correct? If I hear you loud and clear.
That is correct, but also, you know, there might be a dealer that I can see the potential of what they have. We have a particular dealer that when we first started talking, he was just starting out in our business. He was a newer arrival. He had some nice brands. He wanted to be a Martin dealer. And him and I continued to talk, and over 2 or 3 months, I felt like he knew what it took to be a good dealer, what it would take to be a good dealer, and he had no issue investing and doing the things that needed to be done to have him be a successful high-end dealer. That particular dealer now carries all of our brands, and he's out, without question, one of our top dealers.
That's great. That's actually something that I have heard from different distributors, that some dealers definitely go the extra mile, which ties with my next question. Are you expected as a dealer to be part of the installation of a product? If they have your brands, do you expect them to install the product?
Yes, because they're making the profit dollars. That's part of the experience for the customer, and it's so important that they see that through. And the fact that I would have to have a conversation with them would say they're not the right people or we're not the right dealer.
And I know there are many dealers out there that love to be by the phone and do very little work, and they want to earn a payday without putting any sort of effort at all. I know you're very, very, very strong about your position when it comes to dealers like that. You don't want to partner with dealers that are just about picking up the phone, because the last thing you want to do is turn into a salesman yourself. When that is not your job, that's the dealer's job and responsibility, correct?
Correct. Look, we would rather have no dealer in a marketplace than a bad dealer. So
How many dealers do you currently have?
we probably have, I don't know, 8 to 12 Goldman dealers, 15 or so Martin dealers, and about 40 Luxman dealers. What's interesting about that is we deal with fewer dealers because we go in really deep with our dealers. We're fortunate to have really good relationships with them. I speak to them all the time. So what ends up happening is we might have fewer dealers than a lot of distributors do, but we get a much higher commitment out of them. And we're really grateful for that. And it's because we spend a lot of time with those dealers. And look, all of this that we're talking about here, it always manufacturer, or we're talking about it's always about that individual and their ethics and their willingness to put real skin in the game and live the commitments and also be responsible for how their life's turning out. It's very easy for them to say, well, you know, this deal, just a quick story. I was speaking to a dealer a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about a particular product. It was a Luxman phono stage that's $8,000, and I'm like, this piece is doing really well. You should consider bringing it in. His exact words to me, those don't sell here. There's a dealer 6 miles from him, and this person was a dealer for a long time. There's a dealer about 6 miles away. He sold 5 in 6 months because that customer is in that market, and that customer wants to be exposed to that type of product. And whether it's Luxman or something else, I think when a dealer doesn't show a customer that type of product, it's a disservice to the customer, because that customer could have been robbed of an opportunity to hear something that they might really like, because all of this is about the emotional connection that we as individuals have with the equipment that we are looking to buy and how it resonates with us.
So if a dealer with that?
Well, that depends. Now, if it's a Luxman customer, that's kind of a different thing, because we do have a couple people that do online sales, so that's a different thing. But I will tell you that we have Luxman dealers that do bigger installs, and they go there. So, but Goldman and Martin, when people are doing bigger sales, actually any Goldman, just about, they need to go there and install it and be part of that customer experience and make sure that it's all working correctly, and that when that dealer leaves, it sounds the way that they believe it should sound. You know, they put their mark on it. They put their seal of approval on it.
So some of the comments are saying, is 2 people already, that it's a little bit unstable. Do we want to look at that for a second?
I don't have any other way of fixing that at the moment.
Is everybody experiencing that, or just, I see from 2 people now? Can you ask them if everybody's experiencing that, or just a couple of?
Unfortunately, I don't know what could be going wrong other than us disconnecting completely and going with the Wi-Fi.
Can you ask them to let you know in the comments if everybody's experiencing?
Can you guys talk to me if you have any issues right now at the moment? Are you not hearing right now our audio? Is our audio dropping?
Is it the video? Is it the audio?
Because I am right now on YouTube and I see it. You're fine, right? So I don't really know. We have another person behind watching, and
Yes, audio and video drop. Different person.
If you lowered it to 2K, would that matter on the video?
okay.
Or 1080p?
So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to remove it from the Ethernet, and I'm going to go with Wi-Fi. I don't know what that will do. Do me a favor. Can you lower the...
Let's start people saying.
Let's lower the resolution to 1080p. Give me a second, guys. I'm going to try to lower the resolution to 1080p. But you're watching it, no problem. So it's interesting.
Several people, yeah, quite unstable.
All right, so we're going to do... That's 1080p. We're going to do... Give me 1 second. I'm trying to rearrange this.
This is the reality of a live show.
Yep. There we go.
All right. Can you guys hear? Are you guys able to hear us loud and clear? Yep. Should be able to hear us loud and clear. Are you guys able to hear us loud and clear?
Yeah. Is it better?
Is it better? How's the image, guys? Give us some reference point and make sure the image is good.
The audio.
Okay, so everything is great right now, which is interesting because we have someone as well watching from inside and they have no issues. Okay.
It seems like it's better from the comments at least. Which is good.
Okay.
Sound is good. Image is
All right, cool. All right, we're gonna get back on there and we're gonna continue.
Okay, we're done. Awesome. Thanks.
Some of the challenges that we go through to get these guys to have a great live stream. So, all right, so
There is more, actually.
there is, yes. So tell me a little bit about what gets a dealer terminated besides not going to install a product when they're supposed to. What else? What other behavior gets dealers terminated?
Unethical behavior, shipping out of the country, just being a bad actor, just doing things that are unethical. I mean, people know what they should or shouldn't be doing, so.
Okay, so we've talked about, challenges with distributors, with dealers. Can you tell me a little bit about the challenges that sometimes you face with manufacturers? Because I know each manufacturer has a different way of handling business. Without naming anybody, can you tell us, for example, we've had a manufacturer in the past that was not willing to, for example, you're big right now on promoting Goldman and Martin at HiFi shows, right? But you need the support of the manufacturer to make sure they understand the importance of doing this, especially in the US market, right? Maybe there are some that don't care, don't want to spend marketing dollars. They don't care, they just want to sell boxes, things like that. Do you have anything that you can share with us?
Well, for me, that's two parts. So we had the stories that I shared earlier, and we had some of those people where we would give feedback to, and the response time or the understanding of what it was like for us as a distributor and what we were going through, and that we didn't want this to happen to our customers, and the cost involved, and all of the things that we felt that they should be empathetic about. it just didn't exist. And I remember distinctly driving down the road with Sophia in the car, and I finally just popped a cork on one of our former partners, because whether they cared or not, they were saying the words, but nothing was happening that was actionable. So that's a great example of somebody that we don't work with, nor do we want to work with them. Now, if our existing partners, they're amazing. I mean, we talk to them all the time. I speak to our partners multiple times a week, either by phone or by chat, or we're in constant communications, and they are always looking to help us raise the game for the brand that we represent in the marketplace, because it makes us both look good. It makes their brand look good. It makes us look good, and it makes it easier for a dealer to sell product when it has visibility in the marketplace.
All right. Guys, if you are watching this video and you're enjoying the conversation that I'm having with Randy here, do me a huge favor. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Help this channel grow. I am working very hard here to bring you higher quality content. We do have some technical difficulties, as you can see, but nothing that we cannot fix. So hopefully you are enjoying the quality of this content, the quality of the live stream, audio and video, plus a lot of the insights that Randy here is sharing with us. All right, so I'm going to go to another angle here. First, let's get some questions from the viewers. Do they have any questions? If you guys have any questions for Randy here, this is your opportunity to get involved with the conversation. Please present them, type them in the comment section. Okay, we're going to get them answer here live, and in the meantime, we are going to continue with what I have here. But if you have any questions for Randy, type them up and we're going to get those answered. Gray market product is such a controversial thing. We see product from Japan arriving into the United States all the time. Okay, and the reality is, I know that damages the distributor's intention of selling and having the right channel of distribution, right? Be healthy, completely sanitized, and conduct clean business in the US. But unfortunately, shipping is inevitable. The gray market is a thing, and it will be ongoing forever. It can never be stopped. Is there anything that manufacturers do to help a dealer, to help a distributor, to stop this from happening? Do they have a way of controlling that, or they just don't care that this is happening?
Well, I can tell you, since you brought up Japan, so Luxman is a wonderful partner. They have been really active in shutting down eBay people or people on eBay that are selling 100-volt units into the U.S. market. Just so everybody knows, as a distributor, if somebody buys a gray market piece and it's 100 volts, we will not warranty it. They need to send it back to Japan, and they need to get it fixed from the dealer they purchased it from. Regarding Goldman and Martin, they are really supportive of that. So let's say that if a Goldman piece was actually that it showed up here and it was from another country, and a dealer let us know, we would find out what was going on. We would get the serial number. We would send the serial number back to Goldman or Martin, and they would act on it. They have zero tolerance for bad actors doing that, because that hurts our market, and it's just not good. And some companies don't care. I can tell you absolutely, the partners we do business with care deeply, and they want to know.
And just to be clear, if anyone is out there looking to import any sort of Goldman product, there is no warranty.
There's no warranty, no support.
No support.
They
don't even need to call you or anything.
No.
Don't. So you heard it. If you are trying to import any Goldman and Martin into the United States, don't call him. You got no support. You're on your own. Good luck sending that back to Switzerland to get repaired and pay $10,000 to get it fixed.
And speaking of that, if any of you have had a bad experience with a dealer or need some help, please email me. It's randy@rhythmaudio.com. I want to make sure that we are communicating with all of our customers, be it a dealer or our end users or potential end users. It's important to us.
It's gotta be.
I talk to customers all the time. I love talking to customers because I like to hear their stories. And if something's not going right, I want to know that too. It matters.
Why Goldman?
Well, that one's easy for me, but I'll answer it in a different way. What did you hear when you heard Goldman?
I heard a very crystal clear window to the music. I hear with these 2800 Goldman nuance, clarity, speed. It's a high bandwidth amplifier, but I don't want to sound like a reviewer right now. I heard nothing but the music. And they're not products that are extremely huge, which I understand why my number one amplifier being the Griffin Apex can be a problem to some. But remember, when I give an opinion on what I consider the top amplifiers, maybe the number one for me is number three for you, right, based on your space. Maybe this is number one for you because of no heat.
Yeah, no heat. It's
space constraint, and it sounds damn good, right?
Right.
So for me, it was a combination of several things. One, my curiosity. Because I had already owned Darzeal, I had already owned CH Precision Solution, but I had no idea about Goldman. All I heard were narratives, hallway conversations about Goldman in the past, right? But now that I have owned and listened to it for some time, I can tell you it's some of the best electronics to come from Switzerland. I mean, really, it's one of the most elite brands, HiFi brands I've ever owned. So for me, it just checks a lot of boxes because I am dedicated to the ultra high end. And in my opinion, this has a space in my two listening rooms. What about you?
Well, and to your point a minute ago when you said you didn't want to sound like a reviewer, but both can be true. You know,
yep.
You can sound like a reviewer,
yep,
and everything you said about it can and is true for you.
Yep.
So for me, Goldman was easy because I've heard a lot of product in my career, a lot of product. I have never heard product that sounded like Goldman. And some of you will say, of course I'm going to say that. And for me, that's the truth. I've never heard bass with texture the way that the Goldman has. I've never heard the mid-range and product like Goldman has. Usually when you have a product that has detailed top end, it gets a little shouty, it gets a little forward. The Goldman doesn't. It's got a finesse and speed to it that's just remarkable. And for me, it gets out of the way of the music. And that's what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get the noise floor down as low as we can. You know, Goldman has ultra wide bandwidth. They were one of the first companies to do that. You know, they use mechanical grounding, really low distortion, ultra wide feedback, you know, just a lot of things that they are very deliberate in how they design their product. And another thing too is, you know, the Griffin Apex, it's a great amplifier. You know, the Goldman, that's kind of that's the second entry-level piece for Goldman, at 300,000.
Yep.
Goldman has a model above that at 550, and then they have a pair of monoblocks at 550. They have a pair of monoblocks at almost 900,000, or excuse me, 800,000, and then they just showed a new pair at the Hong Kong show.
Oh boy, that's going to be controversial. Talking about the latest and greatest from Goldman, the 9800 Tellus, which are over $1 million US for the pair.
They're $990 a pair, 990,000 a pair.
Okay, and many of my followers are always super angry about seeing products that are released at that price point. And so I'm going to ask you, you're in the hot seat. Why would they make an amplifier that is so expensive, number one? And number two, who the hell buys this?
Well, I just want to go back really quick to before when you were saying why Goldman, because another thing that's really good about Goldman, that's, some amplifiers, when you hear this, a particular product and then you hear the next model up, there might not be a very big difference between those two models. The thing with Goldman is every time you make a step up, it's a true step. Like when you hear the $300,000 amplifier and then you hear the $550,000 amplifier, you're like, wow. And you might be saying right now, I don't believe that. Well, I understand that. And you have to give it a listen so that you can experience it yourself. Now, Goldman makes a $990,000 amplifier because there's a demand in the marketplace for it. It sells. It's not just vaporware. So, and look, when you have companies like, they're $1 million speakers being made, are there companies that make that just to make it? Yes, of course. But, audio companies aren't very big. So to make a product like that takes a financial commitment. So they are selling some of these products. It's not just vaporware. So I have a question for you, and maybe the audience. How many and we'll answer the question in a few minutes.
Okay.
So the new Telos 9800, it was just shown at the Hong Kong show. How many of those do you think the first run of products were? So the first production run was just completed. How many units do you think how many pairs of amplifiers were made in that initial run? And those are all sold.
No way.
And I don't want an answer right now, but I want you to think of a number in your head.
Okay.
I want to get some feedback from the audience. And then
All right, so I'm going to ask the audience. You heard what Randy is asking everybody. Okay, they just released those Telos 9800 amplifiers that retail for $990,000 US. How many of those do you think were just built, and how many have been sold? Drop your comments right now and see if you land at the right answer, because I'm very curious, and I'm going to answer it myself right now. How many I'm going to say they got to build more than one to make this worth it for them as a.
and they showed 2 pair in Hong Kong. You might not know that.
They showed 2 pairs, so they had 2 on display, but that belongs to the brand. They're not owned by anybody.
No, but they still had to build them.
Yeah, they built. So that's true. They built 2. So I would say they probably had built 5 of them, and they have sold 2. I would say. Now, what does the audience say?
Okay, and I want to come back to that in a second. So I want to talk about the preamp for a second, the reference preamp, because I've never been a guy that's really been like in the whole preamp thing. I know it makes a difference, but I've never heard a preamp that was like, okay, I now understand why a preamp makes such a big difference. When I first hooked up the Mimesis reference at our house, we had the nice Martin speakers, the $510,000 Martin speakers. And I remember being up at the speaker cabinet because I was messing with some controls up there, and I just had turned it on, and I was listening to Janician Tattoo, the song, and I remember as soon as it started, I could feel the resonance of the body of the guitar sounded different than I'd ever heard it before, and I hadn't even got back to the listening position. It was astounding to me. Wow. I had never heard that in my career, and when I went back and started listening, I was shocked. My wife was in the kitchen and she said, "What did you just do?" And I explained to her, I switched preamps. But anyways, and what happens in that situation is the Goldman preamp allows more of that signal, that recording, to get through, because what you're looking for in all of this is the equipment to get out of the way.
That's true. Transparency is it's really the most expensive thing because it brings you more realism, but you have to go through so many battles for that transparency, to lower the noise, right? To make sure that everything is just as linear as possible, that you're almost, when it comes to a preamplifier, a wire with a gain, right? It's just a little wire that's passing the signal from point A
with a really small signal that's easy to mess up.
Exactly.
And when people talk about components, the most important component system the most important component in the system for me that makes the biggest difference, one of the biggest differences, is the room. Then once you get past the room, power is incredibly important. So many people step over that. You've done a fantastic job here with power, which a lot of people miss. But yeah.
So let's see how many amps does the audience think they have built?
So I'm seeing 5 to 6. I'm seeing a couple 10s. I'm seeing 20, 50, 40. Couple votes for 6.
All right, so are you ready to tell us what the real numbers are? I need to. Where's my water? I gotta have a sip of water because it's back there actually. Okay, go ahead, Randy. Tell us.
So the initial build of these amplifiers was over 60 pieces. So 60 pairs.
60 pieces.
60 pairs of amplifiers, and they're all sold.
No.
And we brought in 2 pair
for the U.S.
For the U.S.
So you got they made 60.
Over 60.
Over 60. 2 of them you bought to import, and the rest of them are sold. So
They're all sold.
so that's like what, $60 million?
Actually, let me correct that. The 2 that we brought in are not sold. One of them is sold.
So let's just call it $60 million. Because you were saying over 60, so let's call it 60. You're basically saying $60 million.
It's a lot of stuff.
Who buys this? That's the biggest, that's what my audience wants to know. Who buys this stuff? I mean, look, the video you sent me from the Hong Kong show, where they display the big Karma speakers with the 9800 Telus. That room was packed. People were standing. This is crazy how it is over there in Hong Kong. It is crazy. So the only assumption I can make is that the Asians are buying this stuff.
Asia is a big market. Turkey's a big market.
Turkey, really?
Yeah. There's a lot sold in Turkey. Because I don't do global sales for gold.
Oh, you have no visibility to that, yeah.
I don't have the same visibility that they do. But the point is, even if all of it was sold in Asia, it's easy to, because sometimes the conversation is, well, companies build this product and it's vaporware. Well, then if it's not vaporware, then it's all sold in Asia, so it doesn't matter anyways. My point is look, when you could be talking about a purse that's some amount that's crazy, I don't even know purses, but $100,000, $1 million, I don't know. Watches, cars. If you look at our globe, all of these things have gone up a lot. And it's because there's a demand. Is it for the mainstream? No, it's not. It's for the people that can afford it and want to buy it. And that's okay. And I don't wrong them for that. And what also helps is when Goldman develops a product like this, it helps make the whole line stronger because they learn new things about
that is true.
About that product that they develop for that product that will go into other products in the future.
I can certainly see a benefit of making cost no object product like this because, to your point, they have a reason to push the envelope. They have a reason why they want to go far above and beyond than they have in the past, and that comes at a price point. So I understand that. And if we look at the whole picture, the greatest thing about that is that we hopefully have trickle down technology for the next generation of more affordable Goldman products that are coming from these cost no object products. So I totally understand where you're coming from, but I am extremely shocked. What does the audience have to say about what they just heard? Over 60 Goldman amplifiers are sold.
The Telos 8800, which is those are 790,000 a pair. They've sold hundreds of pairs of those. Hundreds of pairs. So
I guess,
and one thing that's really important to understand is what other amplifier company on the planet does that?
Well, that's kind of what I'm.
There isn't one.
Trying to just understand what you're saying here. I never expected for this type of high dollar hi-fi to move the way you're telling me it moves. I never expected that. So I guess in a way I can understand why Wilson builds a $750,000 autobiography. Now I understand why Magical builds a $750,000 M9, or Martin builds $1 million Martin speakers. Right? I understand that there is a market. The thing about it is, I think here in the U.S., Randy, and I'm very well connected, as you know, with a lot of audiophiles who have this high dollar type of stuff. I've never met anybody with $1 million amplifier or speakers or that caliber of gear in the U.S. And I'm thinking the U.S. is probably one of the strongest markets for hi-fi, which is why Goldman and Martin and other brands outside of the ones you represent are pushing hard to penetrate the market because there is money to be made here.
Well, I think it's very important to remember that, a lot of the people that have this stuff, that have, $800,000 Goldman Gaia speakers, they don't want to talk. They're not going to trade shows. They're not talking about. They're not posting it online.
Yeah,
there's multiple sets of the Gaia speakers in the U.S. Yeah. There's Telos 8800s in the U.S. There's a lot of product in the U.S. that you've never seen it because those types of people don't go to shows and they don't want that visibility, And the same goes true for the Goldman active market. The Gaia speakers. Those speakers are $800,000, $900,000. Those Telos 9800 amps, they weigh 792 pounds a pair.
792 pounds each?
Each, sorry. 700, thank you.
Wow.
792 pounds each.
Do we have a question?
We have a question. How important is pedigree with today's manufacturers? I ask because some well-storied names have gone away, such as MIT, which is closing down. Do current makers are thinking or planning long-term?
So how important is the pedigree of a brand for you to represent, for you to take on the distribution, or not necessarily even distribute? Maybe it's a domestic brand. How important is that?
I think pedigree's part of it, but let's say there's a new company that has a product that's really outstanding and they're doing all of the things right that we've talked about earlier. You know, it's probably something we might want to get involved in. Now, one thing about that Rhythm does, we're very particular about not having conflicting categories. But if it was something that didn't conflict with another product category that we were doing, you know, and it was new, but it was novel, I think that's the thing, is it novel? It's something that's truly different that somebody's bringing to the table. If that's the case, then yeah, that's something we want to probably at least take a look at, maybe be a part of. But I think pedigree absolutely has a lot to do with it, because they have their history to draw upon, and their name and their brand recognition.
What other questions do we have? Anything interesting?
Yes. Where are some of the best showrooms to see these products at?
Goldman and Martin. Some of the best showrooms that people can go listen to.
You know, so showrooms can be challenging because, you know, there's for example, Martin, we just bought the $1.3 million Martins in Vienna, and we can't really find a dealer in the United States that has the proper show, the physical space to display that in the manner in which we want. So it's very tough. I mean, I've told you this. This is one of the best showrooms I've seen. The way you've done the power, the way you've done the rooms, the acoustic treatment. I've not seen another dealer do this much, you know, detail, even down to the power that you've done here. So that's really well done. And I think that's a big problem for our industry, especially when you get into this really big stuff. So what Rhythm did is we actually just signed a lease in Palm Desert. We're going to have a big experience center. Oh, nice. That our dealers can use. And so that if somebody wants to come here, the $1.3 million Martins on the, you know, $1 million Goldman amps with the Goldman preamp, they can come here in the manner in which Goldman meant it to be shown. And they can come in and have an experience with the system. And a dealer could bring the customer. They can come alone. It's really...
So basically, if I hear you right, you're investing on the flagship products of Martin and Goldman. You're going to put the proper space. You're going to put it on the floor so that dealers don't necessarily have to make this heavy investment, but they can use that space to bring qualified customers. That means real customers, not people that are looking to stroll in pretending that they're at the mall.
That's right.
Right, because I want to make sure that dealers do their job and they can qualify and say, hey, you know, Randy, I have someone, he happens to work for, you know, Boeing, or, you know, he's an engineer, you know, this guy is serious, he's a serious player, he has asked the right questions and he wants to spend some time with the system in the high caliber gear. They get flown in there, obviously, with the dealer and being present, and you guys then you handle the demonstration. I'm assuming that's how
we let the customer spend as much time as they want there, and we can listen in an environment that's comfortable and really represents the product in the way that it needs to be represented. Now, a dealer still needs to carry Martin, and if they're going to sell a Coltrane level speaker, which is Martin's flagship speaker series, they have to have other Coltrane on display. We can't make the $1.3 million speaker work in their store. We don't want them to have it in there just so they can show it. But we do have requirements, because there are other dealers in the United States that have invested in Coltrane, as an example. And it wouldn't be fair for any Martin dealer to be able to just sell that. Yeah, there's a price of admission.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. Yeah. You nailed it. This is, and I don't want to embark on the price of admission to be part of these to be inside of these two rooms. You've gotten a chance to see the reference room, so no one else has seen the reference room yet. But you can see it's a higher caliber room than this
Absolutely.
is, right? And so there is a price of admission.
Can I start telling them about it? It's really well done, I will say that. And the colors are great.
I'm glad you like the colors of the reference room. But to your point, it's just business. It's just having to qualify people that have the means to buy high caliber gear like this, right? It's really, no one should be upset because they are, I don't want to say they're not allowed, that's the wrong word, but they're not qualified, I guess, to be able to come in because they don't have the means, they don't have the money. And the truth is, if I'm being frank here, money talks, bullshit walks. And if you're willing to put up $3,500 in my case to come and be part of the experience, that shows me you're serious. That shows me you're not here to waste my time and hang out. That shows me you're here because you want to hear something that is done right, next level. Same thing with them. Now, they're not charging customers. I want to make sure I say that. But they're qualifying customers. The dealers are in charge of qualifying these customers to make sure we're not bringing people there that are just there to warm up a chair.
That's right. And it will truly be an experience center. It will have art there. It will have a kitchen. It will be an experience center. And we'll do different events there. We might do watch events. We might do
Oh, nice.
art events. It's just going to be something that is going to resonate with that type of customer.
You know, I got to give you kudos for that idea because it's thinking outside the box. For the longest, the hi-fi industry has always been the same freaking copy and paste, cookie cutter business model that simply doesn't work anymore. Right now we have manufacturers right now that are watching that should be embarrassed to see their own websites. It's an embarrassment to have websites that look like they're from 1990, right? But they don't want to spend the money. They don't want to spend the marketing dollars. They want to be selling product, getting phone calls, and do no social media marketing. Okay, and also the way you display the product, the way you are, putting it in front of the client matters, which is why they're thinking outside the box, which is why you're talking about that experience with Martin and Goldman experience, right? Because something needs to be done to attract new customers, to attract a younger generation. The same thing we've been doing for decades doesn't work anymore. We are not attracting new blood. It's the same dudes that are going in circles across, okay, from store to store. It's the same repeat dudes, the same guys, okay? And so that doesn't help the business and the industry grow. That needs to stop. We got to figure out new ways. So I'm glad that you're at least thinking of something different.
Well, thank you. Well, and we believe that. I mean, when somebody, it takes something different to sell a $550,000 amp to show that in the right way. Otherwise, you're not showing what it can do and why it's that much money. And I think that it's part of the process that shows this customer that has the means to buy it that it's worth it. Because what happens a lot of times is if you throw the amp into a normal store where they have 9 other brands and they have a noisy air conditioner and there's 20 pairs of speakers in the room and you have all those drivers moving and stuff, and they're like, well, the bass isn't any tighter than that amp over there. It's part of the presentation. All of this is a presentation. And if they can't show this product in its best light, the Apex and all of these products at this level deserve to be shown at the level, they deserve to be shown in a level that shows off the attributes of the product. And if they can't do that, the dealer should not be selling it. And they should be able to be objective enough and honest enough with themselves to say, I don't really have the facility to do this. I need to do something different. I need to redo my room. I need to redo my air conditioning. Whatever it might be. I need to get power.
Yep. And since we're talking about Goldman and brands that you represent, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh my gosh. You've already been.
I'm going to put you on the spot right now.
Okay.
Forget about your brands. What other brand would you consider? What other brand would you consider being the distributor for, or that you like, that you truly like, that you don't represent?
Well, I don't want to go into what brands we would want to represent that we don't, from a brand standpoint, because But I will share with you what brands, like if I couldn't have Goldman and I was looking for a system in my house and I was looking at an amplifier, is that kind of what you mean?
Yep.
I think Solution makes fantastic products.
Agreed, they do.
I think Dart Zeal is very, very good. And I think Griffin makes great product. It is really hard to find product that's not good, but I'll say that a product that really resonates with me, Solution, is superb.
I agree. There's no denying that. That's absolutely right. And also, let's talk about your next baby, Martin. Why Martin?
It's very much the same as Goldman. It's a brand that they're really pushing boundaries. Their $1.3 million speaker, I know it's a lot of money. I'm not denying that. But they also have a speaker that's, roughly a bookshelf that's $10,000 a pair. But they cover the whole range and they innovate. And they're doing things different than a lot of other people out there. There's not a lot of speaker companies out there that really innovate and really pushing the boundaries of driver design, and because that's really a big part of this. Martin went to some manufacturers when they developed that $1.3 million speaker. They had 2 or 3 different driver vendors working together. These guys are competitors and they're working together to develop a driver. I mean, it's remarkable. And when you push those boundaries like that, it raises the bar for the industry, because that not only goes into other Martin products, but then other manufacturers are like, oh, we got to do something different. This is really well done. And even if they don't say it publicly, behind closed doors, I think that if they're really watching the market, it's raising eyebrows.
Here's a question from the audience that I just saw on my phone. Is Martin ever going to release power speakers? Is that in the works?
I can't answer that. I can tell you that I don't know the answer to that.
Maybe Martin is watching this. Martin, if you're watching this live stream or you get to see it later throughout the week, maybe you can send me an email and let me know if you are planning to release powered speakers and how far out are we from seeing something. It is important. Many other brands are starting to do this. I think it's
not going to be something short term, so I can tell you that right now.
It's not short term, but you know why I think powered speakers are really important? Because I feel powered speakers attract new generations easier than something that needs this. Because it's almost more plug and play. Remember, what's more valuable to the younger generations is how easy it is and simple to use. When you have to tinker too hard, they don't want it. This is why Apple is so great and fantastic for the younger generations. It's simple to use. It's not hard. And I think if you have a powered speaker that you can just plug into a streamer and plug it into the wall, pull out your phone and stream, it's a way of attracting new blood in the scene. And then eventually you can get them to do this. They can actually get to go and realize that this is superior.
Yeah, I think if Martin was to do something like that, it would have to be something where they were going after the luxury buyer that wants, that simple experience. Because, it's an interesting point you brought up. You have active speakers with Goldman, which are fantastic. And that's a completely different customer than a Goldman HiFi customer. You can't build an active speaker that's as good as putting together all the different components, because this company does an amazing streamer, this company does great power amps and preamps or electronics, and then this company makes great speakers. So you kind of have to put it together, if you will. Interesting point. All of the Goldman active speakers we've sold, or 95% of them, customers never listen to them. They never hear them. They just like, yeah, we want to get this speaker. They just call it, I want to get a pair of Gaias, and we turn it over to a dealer.
Wow.
The first Goldman active sale I ever made was a guy just called me up and says, I want to get these speakers. They're $300,000 speakers. And I go, well, have you heard them? He goes, I don't want to hear them. He goes, I love the way they look. And he bought them. And so we sent them to a dealer, and he bought them. The dealer went and installed them. And what's interesting is the guy has it by his kitchen table.
Really?
It's not even set up in a spot that's the traditional way that we would set it up. It's a different experience for them.
Yeah, but that's not a true audiophile.
True. No, it's not. It's a
just
luxury customer.
And there's nothing wrong with luxury customers.
No.
That's actually more in line, in my opinion, with what these products that you represent are actually targeted to. Because if you think about it, when you have a customer like that doesn't spend time on forums, that doesn't care about YouTube videos or my channel or other channels that are alike, right? Their whole intent is, I saw this on a magazine on my way to Dubai, or saw a commercial for it, or heard my buddy talk about it. I want to buy one. How much? When can you deliver it? All right, my assistant will send you the wire on Monday. Done. You didn't even have to speak to your point to that customer very long. You didn't have to try to pitch it. They knew what they wanted, and you delivered it.
Yeah, they didn't care about wattage, specs.
Nothing.
They just like, so I can just put a dongle on my iPad. That's all I need. That's it.
That's it.
What if I want to do this? Well, then you should get this box if you want to hook a CD player up to it,
Right.
for example.
Right.
But, okay, great. How do I get it? I need to refer you to a dealer, and then you kind of go through that thing and refer them to a dealer, and then it's all taken care of. It's a very different it's not even a presentation, it's a different sale. It's just, they know what they want. Does it do this, the A, B, and C? Yes, it does. Great, I'll take it. How do I get it? Where do I send the money? And how soon can I get it?
That's incredible. I mean, but it's, you know what? It's really difficult to find these clients. But when you find them, to your point, they're sometimes the easiest transactions ever.
Well, in that case, and in almost all of these active cases, we didn't find them. They found us. They saw it somewhere, or they saw it in a magazine, or they saw it on a TV show or something, and they called and said, hey, I want to get this speaker. How do I do it?
You
How
have a
much is
question?
it?
Yes, actually, I have a question. Are you the only Martin distributor in the USA?
Yeah, there's only one distributor.
There's one distributor in the U.S., and then there's a different distributor in Canada.
So you're not the North American distributor of Martin. You are just a U.S. distributor.
Yes.
Okay. So just wanted to make sure.
So Martin and Yorma, in our portfolio, that's the only two lines that we don't cover all of North America.
Okay. Interesting. And in your opinion, why do you think high-end active speakers have not gained traction?
Well, I think it's a different thing. It's very much like we just spoke about. An active speaker is not the primary speaker in a system. It's usually a secondary system that they already have their main HiFi that they want to do all their fun stuff with, and they might be using an active speaker in another room, something smaller, or something that looks different, like Goldman. But I think that active speakers serve a different purpose, and I think that sometimes our industry tries to put them in place hi-fi gear like this. That's not going to happen, at least not today. Maybe someday, but when you can build a much better system than just a single box. It's more convenient.
It is.
There is benefits to that.
There is a lot, yes, I agree.
But there's also trade-offs.
So it's actually about the wife approval factor. Because
yes.
I'm a believer loudspeakers are the hardest component to sell in a stereo system. Because of the size, the color, wife approval factor, and does it work in the room that you have for it. Very few people change out speakers every 6 months, but a lot of people change DACs, cables, preamps, and amps every so often, not speakers.
Right.
There's too much work, too heavy lifting. It's just a hassle, to be frank with you. So would you say that the loudspeaker business is the harder business for a distributor to embark on, selling loudspeakers over electronics?
Without a question. The percentage of, and we're talking about non-active speakers.
Yes, correct.
So the percentage of passive speaker companies that enter into the United States and then fail, it's astronomically high. It's over 90%.
Wow.
It's staggering.
90%.
Yeah, and I'm not saying those companies fail. I'm saying they fail in entering the U.S. market successfully. And that's why you see some companies come back and forth 3 or 4 times, because they didn't have a distributor that really had understood what the brand was, understood its position in the market, and were willing to take it and kind of do this long-term plan of getting the product out there in a way that's sustainable. You know, we have 4 pages in both the Absolute Sound and Stereophile, and it's of each of our brands, you know, and and it's expensive. It takes a lot of money to advertise and to build a brand. There's reviews, there's taking it to dealers, there's just shipping costs is enormous, shows are enormous. Two Exponas ago, we spent almost $250,000 on the show.
Wow.
That's a lot of money for a distributor.
That is a lot of money. I can't believe
You know,
that.
we have $1 million in demos that we rotate around. You know, we have, I don't know, $1.5 million in inventory, and we have a lot of things, and it's very expensive. It's very costly to be a distributor.
Yeah, I'm glad you're touching up on that, because
If it's done right.
if it's done right, because I think people sometimes don't have any clue of the financial investment that it takes to be a good distributor, because not only is it about buying the product from the manufacturer, it's what are you doing with it?
Yes.
How are you getting it to people's faces? How are you displaying it? Where are you going with it? It's not going to sell when it's just in a box in your storage facility. You got to pull it out of boxes, ship it, to your point, across the states, across the country, display it, let people touch it, get excited to see it in person. Sometimes just looking at a product at a show, like for example, when you display the Martin Coltrane's at Expona with the carbon fiber sides, I still think that's the best looking speaker I've ever seen. Even prettier than my Martin Mingas, even though the Mingas are, you know, supposed to be, you know, a beautiful speaker. And I agree they are a beautiful speaker, because I think Martin in general makes some of the best looking loudspeakers that money can buy today. But just having it there, and the balls that you had to put it on the floor in the hallway at Expona, when you know there is no room treatment, it's a hallway. It's probably the worst place to put any sort of loudspeaker, because there's so much reverb. Plus traffic, people talking, competing with the rooms that are adjacent to your space that have doors wide open with music playing. But I knew deep down that he didn't do it there to put on a show. He just wanted to get eyeballs on the product so people can see the fit and finish, the look of the product, and get an idea more or less for the tonality of the speaker and the Goldman amplifiers, of course. So I got to give you a lot of props for that, because I never expected for you to do what you did at Expona. Let me tell you, that was a great strategy on your part.
Well, it was not just me. It was Craig and I. And I have to say, it was a bit risky, but we wanted a lot of people to see it. But the truth is, some people, it always, I always chuckle, because people will go to the show and they'll critique a system that they're going to a hotel to hear, and they'll judge it pretty harshly. And I don't think they're either not being realistic about the environment they're in, or sometimes there's just the haters that just want to nitpick the system and act like they're really there for a reason, but really why they're there is to kind of validate what they have at home, that's cool. But just say that, as opposed to, because the show environment's bad for everybody. And if you get a room that sounds good, many times it's just luck.
Yep. You know, you mentioned the haters at shows, the minions are on foot, walking across the hallways, and their main objective is to zoom in on things they can't afford, and where they can actually tear it apart, and where they can start to drop pieces of information that are never really truthful, that are never really the reason why they may have disliked the product. For example, right now you have a speaker right next to you, the Wilson Audio Watt Puppy, right? Which is $43,000 more or less. I guarantee you, we probably will never see a Wilson autobiography, the latest flagship speaker from Wilson Audio, at any US show. I remember having a conversation with someone at Wilson Audio, I think his name is Trent. He spoke to me about the reason why they don't bring flagship products to shows. And it's exactly what you said. First of all, we want for a product like that to be heard in the right environment, in the right space. That's number one. A real customer is flying in. We're bringing him wherever we need to bring him, or even the factory, to listen to the product in the best space possible. When we put a flagship product at any show, we are doing a disservice to the product. We're actually... So when he said that, I realized it makes a lot of sense to me. It really makes a lot of sense to me. Now, that's not to say that they can't damage your lower end products. They can still say negative things about the more affordable products, right? But that's inevitable at a show. You can't really stop what people are going to say about a room, your products and whatnot. But I think the flagship stuff is even more critical, because that's everything you know about your product design, right? That's everything. That's your biggest effort. And to have it be basically torn to pieces, you have to take the fault for that as a manufacturer, as a distributor, right? Which is why that $1 million speaker that you're alluding to will be displayed in that space in California.
Correct.
It would be stupid to put it in a hallway at a show, because it just doesn't make any sense. But I understand the strategy behind you. And Craig, by the way, I know you're watching this. So when I talk about him, I also mean to include you. You're just not here, man. You should be here in the middle. Okay, so don't feel offended if I'm not, talking about you directly. But long story short, is so difficult to understand. Many customers, many people that watch me right now don't understand that.
Yes. And that's true. And Craig and I, so we were at the Dexter. They've been working on it for several years. We went to Vienna. We heard it with Goldman. Martin uses in their demo room at their facility. They have Goldman there. They have other things too, but Goldman is kind of their flagship there at their facility, and they kind of rotate from time to time. And we were listening to their new Dexter series, and Craig and I have a lot of product that that we kind of put on tour, and that's product that we use as a tool to sign up new dealers, reviewers, and all of those things. When we were listening to the new Dexter series at the show, they have a product called the Dexter Quintet Statement, and we were both so impressed with it. And we could tell the potential of what was there. Even though the environment was not ideal, that we each bought a set. We've never bought, that was the first product that Craig and I have bought since we started this. It's made a mark on us.
So you have also, you have to have a passion for what you represent. Like, you have to really, truly believe that it's great quality product and that you actually think it delivers a great performance for the money. Now, I know some of it is not going to be a high price performance proposition, because let's face it, nothing in the luxury world can ever be thought of as great price performance, whether it's watches, price performance. To the performance aspect of things, you're saying you have to actually like it. You have to really vibe with it before you can put your name behind it.
100%. When Craig and I when we were looking at Martin, we had gone to their facility, and we've all been to shows where they're playing the same song over and over again. And the reason we do that, obviously, is because we're familiar with it. And there was this particular song on that Craig and I have heard hundreds of times. And Craig and I were talking, and I go, back it up. I think I heard something. Neither of us had ever heard before. that was revealed in the Martin. And we've heard a lot of things. I've heard a lot of things. But that's a great example. I mean, we've all experienced that in audio where we're listening to something and we're like, this is really awesome. I've never heard that before. And that's part of this evolution when you have a low noise floor and all of the things that happen that are supposed to happen. That's the type of magic that happens in our system. And when we have that, and when we experience that in our own system, we love it. That's why we're doing this hobby,
Here's a question that someone from my Ultra HiFi group presented. This is another question. Does there need to be any changes in the industry to ensure the long-term health of the hobby?
Yes.
What do you think these are?
Well, fundamentally, we need to get younger people into our industry. Our industry is aging out, and we have to find a way to appeal to younger listeners, and when I go to a show and I see a 25-year-old, I was telling Giselle earlier, I was at a show and I saw this kid walking around. He was 16 years old and he's got 3 or 4 albums under his arm. I stopped him and asked him why he was here and what he liked, what he had at home, and we spoke, and I thanked him for being at the show. It's important. So I think as an industry, we need to do a better job of exposing people to why audio exists, why it's different, why these systems exist, and why it matters. I think that's really important.
Okay, so any closing thoughts from my audience? Anything that you want to say that we may have missed?
I just hope that people will go and listen to Goldman, listen to Martin, listen to Luxman, and then if they don't like it, that's great. I mean, look, it doesn't matter what I say about product, doesn't matter what you say about product. What matters is how the product resonates with people. And the reason that I like Goldman so much is it emotionally speaks to me. It really checks all of my boxes. And because of that, I love it. And once I heard that, and once I hear that, and once I hear the next, like when I heard that the 8800 over the 4800, I couldn't unhear it. And that became the new standard for me. And that became my quote unquote best. So I just encourage people to go listen to Goldman, go listen to Martin. If they have a Wilson system at home with a particular amp and they don't think they can get more out of it, go listen to Goldman. Because you're always striving to improve your system and see what's next for you. And sometimes we don't know what we know until we know it. If you go and listen to it and it's not your thing, great. Yep. But there's a lot of people that I don't think they realize what they're missing with some stuff out there.
Without a doubt, I can definitely, reinforce your point. There are many, many great products being built today. And unfortunately, a lot of audiophiles around the globe stick to the same brands, the usual suspects, right? And I understand maybe they have a passion for it, they love it. But I think life is boring if you're always going to order the same thing from the menu, not knowing if there's something else within that menu that you may like more. It's a boring life. When I got here to Texas and I built this room, I had a vision. I wanted to do it with different colors. I wanted to do a cooler floor. I wanted to do things that are not the same type of template as others do, right? And I think it paid off. I think the feel for the room, it's to my liking, which is ultimately the only one that has to like it is me, because I'm the one in here basically 99% of the time, right? That's first and foremost. And as far as HiFi and what you're saying, to your point, is people should get out there and listen to other brands. It doesn't even have to be Goldman. It doesn't have to be Martin, right? It just needs
go
to
listen.
Go listen to other stuff. If you've never heard Goldman, go listen to it. If you don't like it, he's not gonna be mad. Thank you for listening. It wasn't your cup of tea, no problem. Or maybe you come back and say, man, I really need to look into this now that I heard it. Now I can't unhear it, which is what has been my experience with the product.
Yeah, very true. And look, when you built this room and you did the power the way you did and you built the acoustic treatments the way you did, it set up a foundation so that you could hear the equipment in a way that you'd never heard it before. And you've heard things that you never knew you were here, that,
Oh, yeah.
that you would hear, that you didn't hear,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
that you hadn't heard yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, as I've already said, once you heard it, you could not unhear it, and that became your new standard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does become your absolute standard. Someone is saying that there is no Goldman dealer in his state. To that, I guess I can say, if you don't have a dealer nearby, call Randy, email him. He'll figure out who to put you in front of. Okay, it is important that you, again, if you have any question about Goldman or Martin, you can email him directly. I'm going to drop his email, or you can go to the website, which happens to be linked on the description of this video, their website. They get the inquiries. They can put you in touch with the right dealer, depending on the proximity to a dealer that they may have and who is the best dealer for your particular needs, okay? Give him a call. He's not gonna be shy about it, and he's gonna tell you if the product is not for you based on what your current system is. He's also very honest. That's one of the reasons why I have a great relationship with him. It's very black and white, and so am I.
Well, and yes, so Randy at rhythmaudio.com. You know, interestingly enough, there was a comment about a month ago on one of your Goldman
Videos.
Yeah, videos, thank you. And one of the customers had mentioned in the comments that there was nothing, the price of admission for Goldman is $95,000 for a stereo amp. So just so everybody knows that Goldman will be having a more affordable stereo amp. It's going to be around $60,000. So look for that. And they're also going to have a more expensive, we are actually going to have so there's a China-only integrated that we are now going to start bringing into the U.S.
Oh, great. So how much is that?
It's about $80,000.
So there are definitely options. I would be curious to see what Goldman can do under 50 grand though.
They have an integrated at 26,000.
Oh, they do?
And they have an integrated at 39.
Randy, why don't we do something? Randy, why don't we take this opportunity for those people that cannot do the crazy stuff that I do? Why don't we do something with that $26,000 integrated? I'd like to have it here, display it, give people a feel for the integrated. I think these speakers are perfect for that as well, because they are right where they need to be in terms of the price. So why don't we just do that and make and shake on that? And
that's fine. Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and have a $26,000 integrated, right?
$26,000. I want to send you two. I want to send you that one and then the one that's 80-ish.
Okay, there you go.
So, because then you can talk about them both.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and have those integrated here. I'm going to make videos on it. I'm going to give you guys my opinion and maybe even do a comparison against these monsters. Maybe tell you these are better, but how much better? What are you getting from the baby sibling, right? So those of you that are always asking me, Jay, you got to do more affordable stuff, because Randy, one of the biggest criticisms I get all the time is, man, this dude is doing stuff that no one can buy. Mm-hmm. This guy is crazy. So I thought about doing more affordable stuff, but to be frank with you, I never consider the possibility or even let alone know that Goldman had a $26,000 integrated. So I think because it is Goldman, right? It's a hi-fi brand that I like. It would be important that I get to listen to it here, that I get to talk about it, and that I can give everyone my feedback in comparison to its own bigger brother. I think it would be a great video.
Yeah, I think that's great. Well, since you're in the mood of taking on other Goldman stuff and trying it, why don't you try the 9800s?
The $990,000 amplifiers?
Yeah, I'll deliver them.
Man, I'm starting to sweat, man.
We can put them in that room so you can show off
in
that
my
room.
reference room?
Yes.
Man.
I'm putting you on the spot now.
750 pounds.
No, 792 pounds.
792?
Yes.
What do you guys think? Leave a comment.
I hope you're not enlisting me to pick those up.
No, I'm not enlisting you at all. No. What, you guys think I should be bringing those $900,000 monos in my reference room? I'm afraid of asking for something like that, man. That's a huge, I mean, I'd break the internet. If I ever had an amplifier like that, I think that's the end. I can close my channel.
I'll take that as a yes.
I'd be willing to take you up on it. There's going to be some conversations needed, because obviously I have other amplifiers there, and space needs to be made, and I want to make sure that if it happens, I put them under the right lights and the proper space, which I know I have. But I would definitely be interested. Imagine having the craziest Goldman in the reference room with the matching line stage and the integrated here.
Well,
That would be super interesting. I think the audience would love that.
and to be really clear, I'm not looking to push anything out. So I just,
No, of course, I understand that. Yeah.
so.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think? What do you guys say? What are they saying?
They're saying, bring the big dogs, change your locks. You cannot say no. Absolutely, big amps, let's go.
And then I'll come back and we'll set them up together and we'll do a little thing and then I'll leave. Once
Okay.
I know they're like how they're supposed to be.
I think this is going to be, man, I can't believe this is just became official here. We actually made a pact. Integrated it here for 26 grand in the crazy $900,000 monos in the other room.
And they just built those last week.
They just did.
Our two pair, yeah. Which is pretty cool.
They're putting you on the spot. They're saying with the $1.3 million Martins.
Oh, they won the Martins.
So we did buy the Martins. I would have to see if the Martins would work in this room physically. But I will say this. The problem with the Martins is the lead time on those is like 10 months.
Wow.
So because they've sold so many of those speakers.
Wow. No, that's a beautiful speaker.
And I don't have permission to give those numbers out, so I can't. But,
No, yeah.
but anyways. But the point again is those things are selling too.
They are selling just like the Goldman amplifiers.
They sell.
So I guess today, one of the biggest takeaways from this live stream that many of you watching should understand is there is a market for the cost no object hi-fi products that we see on YouTube, magazines, and everywhere else. Now we know it's official. We thought no one buys that. We just got confirmation today from Randy that that's not the case. There are buyers of this stuff, which in a way makes sense because I wouldn't expect for a brand to invest on R&D to develop a product that will not be sold to anyone. So,
You know, and it's interesting because I do think there are companies out there that build expensive stuff and they might sell single units, like 6, 12, something like that. But that's because, again, Giselle, you were talking earlier about the pedigree.
Yeah.
They don't have that pedigree, which doesn't mean that they're bad or anything. That's not what I'm saying. Goldman has always made very expensive flagship product. So they built that pedigree over a long period of time. And it's not just the price tag that does that, it's the performance that goes along with that.
yeah.
We have one more question. Who sells Goldman in Western Canada?
We don't have a dealer in Western Canada. Please email randy@rhythmaudio.com and we'll get you sorted out.
Any other questions? I'm looking at the phone right now. I see 210 people actually, which is great. Do you guys have any questions for Randy at the moment? Is there anything that you may want to ask him? Smart questions, of course, right? He's here to be part of the live stream and to obviously, be candid and open about anything you may want to know within reason. Let's see if anybody has any questions. So, should we disclose to my audience the intent of me flying overseas to see?
Yeah, we
few
should.
things?
We should.
All right, so we're going to make an announcement here, okay, since you guys have been great and in your best behavior. I've been looking at the comments. You guys have been great. So I think we're going to just say something here. Go ahead, Randy.
Well, seeing what Jay did with the Goldman and how his experience was, and we felt it was very important for Jay to go. Actually, this happened in Vienna. It hit me in Vienna. When we were in Vienna, we were walking through the Goldman factory, and when we were going through the Martin factory, we'd been there before. Martin has a new facility that's just amazing. They hand build so many parts of the speakers are hand built right there. All their cabinets come from Europe. it's a beautiful process. And same thing with Goldman. Goldman stuff is made right there in Geneva. And I felt it would be really great for your audience, for you and Giselle to go there and document what it's like. So you go there and you see there is 40 amplifiers right there being built. You see it with your own eyes. You take a picture of 40 amplifiers being built. It's not just vaporware. And when you see all those amplifiers being built like that, it's really powerful. And when you have that kind of that feeling of the factory, as I said earlier, I worked for factories, and I've been to a lot of factories, and I would go to factories, and usually there's like solder rosin on the floor and electrical tape and just stuff everywhere. When you go into the Goldman factory and the Martin factory, it is pristine. And I think that it says it's such a detail that when they pay attention to that, they pay attention to all those other things too. And a lot of companies don't do that. I mean, you could eat off the floor in Goldman. It's amazing. So yes, I wanted you to go there, and I'm going to join you.
Awesome.
And
so it's official.
My wife may come, but I want you to document what it's like, and so you can share with your audience, so they have an experience of what Goldman is like, and they have an experience of what Martin is like, and the craftsmanship that goes into both products, and the pride.
So that's actually interesting because I don't want to mention names again. I'm not doing that anymore, but I have requested I actually have inquired to certain manufacturers. Basically, I have expressed my desire to conduct a factory tour of their facilities, and it has been denied. And it's happened more than once, I can tell you that. It is my opinion, my gut feeling is telling me that they simply don't want me to show their facility and how they make products, how they make such expensive product. And I don't think it's because they have the secret to cure HIV in there. I think it's because they just don't want to show that they may not have the proper equipment, or that someone is in the garage building cabinets, okay, and they're charging $200,000 for a pair of loudspeakers. My entire desire with this factory tour, these two factory tours, my mission is to show you guys next level engineering, and obviously the production that it takes, all the hard work and dedication that goes behind the scenes into building some of the two finest brands known to us, Martin and Goldman. And so when I head out to Switzerland and Sweden at some point later this year, I'll be able to bring you guys exclusive content, high resolution video and audio. I apologize in advance if the video hasn't been the greatest at times, or the audio has been dropping. Believe me, I work hard to put this together to the best of my ability, but we have some changes to make, which is fine. It's part of getting better at what we do. Now, if we had recorded this before, pre-recorded it, we wouldn't have a problem at all. It would have been just fine, right? When I get out to these two factories, I promise you, you're gonna see why these products from Martin and Goldman cost what they cost. I promise you. When you see it, I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna convert anybody into a believer, but if we have 1,000 haters, if I can gain 200 supporters, I've done my job. That's all I'm hoping to do here. And to show you that there are reasons why these things cost what they cost. And so when I presented this idea to Randy, and obviously he shared with his partners, these manufacturers, they were in, because they realized we want to show that. We want to show why we charge what we charge. What is so expensive? Where's the scrap metal corner? Things that didn't pass the inspection, things that never made it to production. The wood didn't come the way we needed it. It's cracked. It's not, the integrity of the wood is not where we need it to be. This is why we couldn't make that product. These drivers failed to pass inspection. They're not measuring up to our standards. I want to show you all of that. I want to bring that front and center so you understand, what it takes to build luxury hi-fi. And I'm going to do just that when I head out to Europe. You ready for that?
You packed up, Giselle?
Are you packed up, honey?
I'm starting to pack today.
You're ready to pack up? Yeah, I am excited to go overseas. Never been to Sweden, never been to Switzerland, and I think my audience is going to certainly enjoy that.
You know, it's interesting. At Goldman, the first time I went there, I was all nerded out because straight across the lawn, about, I don't know, half a mile away, you can see where the super collider is on the same property. It's kind of cool and nerdy. But Goldman's, it's just, both facilities are remarkable, and the people, because the people are what make the company.
Of course.
Is just remarkable. When I met the engineer at Goldman this year, and we really had a conversation. I've never, you know, you speak to somebody and you're like, the depth of knowledge is so great. I was in awe, and I've worked for some great amplifier designers, and when I spoke to him, I've never spoken to somebody with such, just, you could just feel it. So, anyways, any more questions? Giselle?
There's a question, the last one, right? The from Mega Martico. Hi, Jay, from London.
Yes, how much is the budget according to Randy youngsters need to invest in the system to start? Is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah, so a question is, Jay, it's M from London. How much is the budget, according to Randy, that youngsters need to invest in the system to get going? How much should they be spending? People that are just starting to put a system together. It's hard to land on a number because we don't know their financial position.
No, but yeah, but you can start as look, we have many systems in our house, and we actually have had periods where we were trying to break in so many speakers for the show that I didn't have any electronics to run product, you know, to power the speakers. So I bought several WIN powered streamers and used those to break in some of the speakers as well. If I was young and I was working and I was just starting out to build a system and I didn't have a lot of money, I would buy something like a little WIM and a little bookshelf from B&W or Focal or something like that, and I would start there. You know, something that has a streamer all built in one, and then you start your journey. So I think that it just depends on his budget, but you can get a system that's nice for under $1,000 that streams.
Yep. That's very true. It's getting better and better because what you have today at that price point is so much better than what we had 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like, why do I need to spend more oftentimes? And when you have those reality checks, you realize this is special, man.
Yeah, and the WIM, it works, and it's very intuitive, and you know, there's some companies I've seen out there, you can't even get the stream it or work because the menuing is, and the app is so horrible, and the WIM app, it's really well done. So my point is, look, I think it's so important that people are enjoying this hobby because it's fun. Like, I love music. My life would be so different without music. I know my wife feels the same way. It enriches my life. And whenever I can listen to music and have it be better and get closer to the artist, I love that. And if when I was young and bought my first system, I felt 10 feet tall when I walked around the house listening to, around my bedroom listening to it, you know, and I was really proud of that because I bought it and I liked the way it sounded.
Here's I see another question from in line 4.
Randy, how do we attract the younger people?
How do we attract the younger people with less money to high-end audio?
I think that, well, it's not by having shows where you're showing off $2 million audio systems.
That's very true.
I think that it requires a different audience and something that is marketed in a different way. Like, for example, you know, they're starting to do a lot of these clubs where people will go in and they'll bring an album in and they'll invite 20 or 30 or 40 people. Each person brings in an album and they'll listen to music for 4 hours on a modest system. And they all get to experience in that room listening to, first of all, different genres, but also listening to different, you know, as a group of people, like not stuck in their tablet and like communicating in a different way through this music and sharing that experience. So I think that's one way. Another way is, you know, some of our dealers are starting to put vinyl shops inside their stores, and then they'll have a system, that really affordable system in the store that shows off their system. I think having listening sessions with vinyl, I think there's a lot of different things that you can do, but it has to be marketed in a different way to where it doesn't seem like you're talking down down to people. You have to meet them at their level.
There is some of that elitist mindset within the industry.
There is, and it's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate.
Because we started out young too, and I'm grateful for the people that took me under their wing and taught me things, and I remember the people that were really not nice to me.
Yeah,
it's not cool. There was nothing inspiring about that for me.
There is a lot of that I've noticed. That doesn't happen to me anymore, but I can tell you in my early days, this is something I've never said, there was a lot of that. When I started my journey, I didn't start with all of this stuff, and I've made a video about my early days. And I'm going to tell you that as I started to meet Wilson owners and I had Polk Audio, there was a definite, a different feel. I was not necessarily in the same cool group or crew as those Wilsons or Magical owners or those high-end, high-caliber brands when I just had Polk Audio and Onkyo receivers. I remember those days. I remember it. Look, but again, I can use myself as an example for those that are starting low, right? I didn't start here. I didn't land here overnight. It took me over a decade to get here, but it's been constant, right?
Yeah.
Grinding. And now eventually I became a business. So I understand they're not talking about the business side of things. They're talking more about how do we get up to a level that right now doesn't seem reachable, which I think is a fair question in life about anything.
Yeah, but some of that happens as somebody's 20 and they're going to school and they become a doctor, and before they got pre-med, then they got med, or they're doing whatever. As we grow, we start to make more money. The gentleman that asked the question about this, that's building an affordable stereo, if he was to bring pictures of that to the show and show me, he's proud of that, and I should say to him, that's really cool, because it is for him. It's like me, and if I don't say that, I'm calling his child ugly and not validating him. It's disrespectful, and I think that people that do that in our industry, it's really unfortunate because they're missing the real reason why people do this. We all have different levels of income and things that we can buy, and some of us don't want to spend that much on a system. And if they're, what I care about is I want them to be in the hobby and do it because they enjoy it. I don't want it to be because they're ashamed or they get hassled or it becomes work. And if it starts to become those things, then whomever they're interacting with, first of all, they should find new people to interact with.
Agreed, yes.
But second, it's not fun for them. I do this because it's fun. I am so blessed to be at my age, which is really old, and to be doing what I do. I'm really fortunate.
And also I think people need to understand that this is your journey.
Right.
This is your thing. You are sailing the ship. This is you. You have to be the one to like your system, not me, not your buddy, not your HiFi dealer. It's you. And knowing what limitations you have financially speaking. There are many great second-hand products out there that that were very expensive before, that now are within reach. The problem is this, and I've made a video about this, Randy. You can't keep doing this to yourself, which is opening up magazines and wanting the latest and greatest. In my opinion, if you don't have the means to chase what's next, be happy with whatever got discontinued that you got at a great deal, because people have this perception that if something new released, that makes that product sound like crap all of a sudden. You see what I'm saying? The perception is, wow, it sounds broken all of a sudden, like switches flipped on and off inside the product that make it sound bad. To me, the beautiful thing about HiFi that no one is talking about is that the secondhand market, which I know you're not in the secondhand market, but since we're talking about people with budget limitations, it makes a lot of incredible product really be within reach of a lot of people. It's incredible products that were built 10, 15 years ago, right, that are no longer current and have a great performance in what you can buy them for. You can build really good systems today if you know where to buy affordable products. And again, and by the way, a lot of these hi-fi brands, I want to make sure I say this, still repair these products. They still fix them, they still support them. I've already talked about, and I know we're not talking about Past Labs, but I already talked about how Past Labs repairs anything that they have ever built. And sometimes free of charge.
And that's great.
I commend them for that.
I do too.
I don't know how they do it. How do they pay somebody an hourly rate to fix something that's not under warranty, and they don't charge the customer to get it repaired?
Well, it's because it doesn't break very often, and it creates an impression for the brand.
That's crazy.
That carries on.
Right.
We're talking about it right now.
Yeah. They get pulled in because of what they're doing right.
Yes.
So remember, again, ultimately it is your journey, and to me, that's all that matters. If you watch me, I guess I could be entertainment. Maybe on a Friday night, you want to see the Mad Men here show you some crazy stuff. That's fine. Take it as entertainment. No problem. I'm cool with your click and your view. I'm cool with that. But stop chasing someone else. And that sometimes leads to frustration. Because you can't have the latest and greatest. You get frustrated because everything is inflated in price. Everything is so much money. But that's just not hi-fi. That's everything. Construction materials are more money now at Home Depot. Everything. Gas prices, cars. I mean, there's not a decent car now anymore for under $60,000 to $70,000. So it's not just strictly with hi-fi. I think it's just life in general has gotten this crazy. The problem is that sometimes people look for an outlet and something to blame it on. So they see hi-fi be so expensive and they attack it, never paying attention to the bigger overall look of the view actually of the world as a whole, and realizing that everything is crazy expensive. Well, when I watch a lot of YouTube channels that review all kinds of vehicles, right? The comment section is like, I can't believe they're charging $140,000 for this Cadillac. This is ridiculous. $100,000 for a pickup truck. Where are we going with this? So it's the same thing in other industries. Pickup trucks that are $100,000 that were just work vehicles.
Right.
Decades ago, now they're $100,000 trucks, $120,000 trucks. So, any other questions?
Well, I really like the comment that Chris made. He says there needs to be more kindness in hi-fi. We're all in our own journey.
So true. That's very, very true.
That's what you were saying.
Yeah.
That elitist mentality. Let me see what else.
Everyone just compares the content and reproduction of that, nothing more. Okay.
I have learned more the past 2 years with Jay's Audio Lab than any other website or magazine. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate comments like that. It makes me happy to hear that.
Does it fill your cup?
It does.
It should.
It actually does.
And it should.
It does, absolutely.
There's a question here for Randy. Will Luxman make an INT amp with a built-in streamer?
Built-in DAC, I think is what he means. Yeah, built-in.
No, I think they probably mean streamer. Well, it'd have to be streamer DAC because they're all analog.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So this is just my guess. I would say no, and the reason being is because of the way that that Luxman is. They really like analog products for their amplifiers, and they like source components to be source components. So I don't think they'll ever do that. But that's just me guessing. I don't know. I mean, next year they could say, oh, we're coming out with this product, and then they're like, well, I'm glad I put my foot in my mouth on that one. So, I think it's highly unlikely.
You see any other questions that you guys may have? If you have any other questions, we have a couple of extra minutes at the moment with Randy. So he's here to answer anything you want to know. Let me see. I always recommend, let me see.
Any comments on the new Jorma cable?
Oh yeah. Apparently there's a new Jorma line?
There's there are two new series of Yorma cables, and they were just shown at Vienna. And I'm embarrassed to say I can't remember the name of them right now. It's a new series of Statement and a new series of Auriga. what they've done is they've taken some of the technology that they had in the Paragon, which is their flagship cable, and that's migrated down. And so, but we haven't gotten a lot of information, and there's not a lot of information on their website yet. But I will tell you this, probably, I would say in the next 30 to 45 days, I'll have a much better understanding. You'll be able to find more of that information online. And if that person wants to email Randy at rhythmaudio.com, I will get him an answer. That's specific. Just have him email me. So he's not just hanging for 45 days or whatever.
There's one there. Is Goldman using the job circuit, JOB circuit?
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know what that is either.
I mean, all their amps use their Telos technology. They've been using that technology, and it's been generational improvements for that product. But I don't know what the job stuff.
This is a good question by Hi-Res Audio Costa 873.
Can you have Randy talk about the sound quality in your room? Somebody's putting you in the hot seat.
Someone's putting you in the hot seat, man. I'm staying out.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So I haven't heard the other room because Jay said no. I asked twice.
I'm not going to listen.
So I listened to this system, and here's what I found. The room is incredibly well controlled. Like there's not a lot of, an overhang on the bass. I mean, you clap and it's just, it's very natural sounding just when we're speaking. So when you're listening to the music, the thing that, because I know how the Goldman sounds, I had not heard these speakers before, but I've heard other Wilson speakers. It was tight, articulate. The room sounded fantastic. So, and I would say for me, the best thing that the thing I was most impressed with is the tightness of the bass. And that happens because nothing was happening in the room to where the room was getting activated. And that happens all the time in stores. You start to get, air conditioning vents start to have resonance, and you can hear the echoing in the room in spaces that it's not coming from the system. So there was none of that. So what I heard is everything was coming through the system and from the system and not being created by the room. And that was awesome. And that was refreshing, frankly. So that would be my comment about that.
There's one question by GOX Giorgio there, right under that one.
Yes. Any behind the scenes why Goldman was passive for many years?
Okay.
Yeah, I'll answer that. Well, so what happened is the founder got sick, and he couldn't run the company the way that he had been running it for years. And I think we've seen this a lot in our industry, where you'll have a company that does well for a long, long time. The founder will get sick, or some other political dynamic will happen inside a company. And then one of several things happen. Sometimes the company goes on and it continues to improve. Sometimes a company will just go away. Sometimes a company will just go through a dark period. And Goldman absolutely did that. So when we were first looking at the line, that was one of the things I thought about. I'm like, well, what's going on with them? I'm in the industry and I don't really know what's going on. So when we met with them and saw their product roadmap, I was blown away by their product roadmap, the things they were doing, and the investment they were making back into the brand. And I remember very specifically at the first show, I was downstairs and I bumped into Robert Harley, and I said, would you please send somebody up to our room? I want to show them the new Goldman. And I phrased it like that on purpose because so many people in our industry had seen Goldman as kind of this thing that was kind of put out to pasture and stuff. And that's
very true.
Yeah, and then what happened is he sent up Alan Taffel. We met with him, and we sent Alan to Europe. We paid to have him go there. And the reason we did that, Craig and I did that, is we wanted him, we sent him and his wife, we wanted him to experience, and this wasn't a buy, I wanted him to experience what Goldman had become. Because, look, it's easy to get past somebody on the phone. But when you go to somebody's house, i.e. the factory, and spend a couple days there, it's pretty hard to hide stuff and what's going on. And on the flip side of that, if things are going really well, you feel it. The energy comes out. So we purposely sent him there so that he can understand who Goldman was, who they were today, and he could write about that, and he did. So that's the Tellus 800, which is the stereo amp that's $95,000. It was product of the year last year. Alan gave it a fantastic review, and yeah, that's kind of the story there.
Any other questions?
And if you have a follow-up, I'm happy to answer that too. So.
Sure. Is Goldman family owned?
Is Goldman family owned?
Goldman is no longer family owned, and that brings up another interesting point. So many times in the industry, I've seen companies get sold. They get a new group in, and what happens more often than not is that the company becomes a shell of what they were, and improvements don't happen. And the people that bought Goldman were some younger people, and they're from Switzerland, and they really wanted to. They're not looking to pump up sales and flip it. They are truly taking Goldman back to its roots, deeply investing into the company, and they have the product map for Goldman for the next 3 years is astonishing. And the things that they're doing, well, the 9800 is a great example of that, and many of the other things that they are going to be coming out with that I can't talk about. It's mind-blowing. I wish I could share, I really do. But it's a rare example of people, buying a company and actually investing in the brand and looking to make the brand better, as opposed to just pumping it up to sell it. So no, it's not family owned. They have some kids that bought it, not kids, some young men that bought it with their parent and an investment group, and they are making a lot of changes. And it's been really remarkable to watch it for Craig and I, because at first Craig and I were scared. We had a lot invested in Goldman. We had
Absolutely.
Almost, we had, I don't know, $600,000 or $700,000 in just demos that were floating around. Yeah. So that part was scary for us. So they've done really great things, and I can't wait to see when these products are actually released, how the market reacts. And you'll be able to see some of those actually when you're there, and we'll be able to talk about them even more.
Also, is Martin family owned?
Yes.
Martin's family owned, right? Who? Olaf?
Yes.
Olaf? What's his?
3 brothers.
3 brothers own him. Yeah. And people are asking. I see something here. What do you have at home in your own system?
Well, right now, because everything went to the show, I don't have really anything at home. But what I have right now is I have a Luxman 100th anniversary Centennial stack, which is the big integrated streamer, DAC, and a CD player. Some Focal Canta 3s, which I pulled out of the back room. Not because they deserve to be back there. That's just I had my Martins in there, and that's what I had. Before the show, the $1.8 million system that was at Expona was what was at our house, and before that, these were at our house about a year ago. So we usually have Martin at our house, and what's going to reside at our house is those new Martin speakers, the Dexter Quintet Statement with Goldman separates.
That's great. There's a question by JC.
Yes. What about dealers? How much weight do you place on quality of the dealers and the people versus how big their facility may be?
Well, as I said earlier, it's always about the person. We have a dealer in the Pacific Northwest that is that JC? Did you say?
Yeah.
So this might be the dealer that we have in the Pacific Northwest, and he is a remarkable dealer. He's been a dealer a couple of years. We started with Martin very conservatively. He was from outside the industry. He was actually a customer, and he's one of the few people that I've seen that's done it right. He has lots of Goldman in his showroom. He's got lots of Martin in his showroom. It's actually he rented a second house. And usually we don't do business with home-based businesses, but he does it right, and it's really well done. He's, like I said, he's got a second house that's all devoted to his HiFi. And the only reason it turned out to be a house is because he couldn't find any properties where he was living.
There's no, hey, listen,
So, again, it's always back to the individual. I know people that have great big stores, and we won't do business with them.
Well,
And that's fine for others, but for me, we want to be somewhere where we won't get lost in the mix, and that the brands that we represent will get shown to people and get shown in a manner that's great. They're not going to come in here and have 9 or 10 pairs of speakers in the room, and a bunch of other stuff. Just a really quick story. I went to a store, and I sat down. And they had a nice system. And I sat down, and 30 seconds later, I said, "Your speakers are out of phase." And they didn't really, they thought I was joking. And then we switched to another pair of speakers, and these were big speakers. And I said, "Your left tweeter's blown." And it blew my mind. It was a $1 million system.
wow.
And they had been demoing it that way.
Wow.
And I think that what happens is dealers get caught up in the day-to-day operations, and people will say, well, that couldn't happen here, or this wouldn't happen here. And they don't just come in every day and listen. They have a customer come in, listen to the system. What does it sound like? Does it sound the way that it's supposed to? What is this manufacturer being properly represented? And that experience I see all over the country. And it's unfortunate.
I guess this is for your wife, who happens to be behind the scenes, okay? Randy's wife is behind the camera, guys. Please, Randy, tell us about your socks before you go.
Okay. Well, so this is our son, Nico, who passed away a couple years ago. And so he was supposed to be part of our business. And he was from the recording industry. And he passed away. So whenever I travel and go on the road, I have some pair of socks on with him, and then I also wear these beads that he used to wear. So that's
cool.
the story.
So it's your lucky charm type of thing.
It is. Yeah, it's a remembrance and an honoring of him. And
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. About your difficult time.
Well, but
it's never easy. I can only imagine what that would feel like to lose a child.
Thank you. And whomever asked that question, I don't want anybody to be embarrassed. It was a fine question. I would ask the question as well. And I'm actually glad that somebody did. And I was wondering if somebody would. So this is Nico.
All right, Nico. What other questions do we have?
Why does Martin leave everyone else in the dust when it comes to diamond tweeters? I have heard many diamond tweeters, but no one can do it like Martin does it. Probably a company secret, though.
Well, for one, it's a really good diamond tweeter. And look, diamond tweeters have a bit of first of all, there's diamond tweeters that say they're diamond tweeters that might not really be anything but a dusted piece of aluminum. That might be part of it. But also, whenever I would go to set up a dealer to be a Martin dealer, what would often happen is they would say, "Oh, I don't like diamond tweeters or ceramic drivers because they're harsh." And I'm like, that's just the way that the speakers were voiced and the way they, and there's other technical reasons why that happened. You're not going to experience that with Martin. And every dealer that we've sent both Martin and Goldman to has become a Martin and our Goldman dealer. And that doesn't happen very often. Usually it's, maybe 50, 60%. With Goldman and Martin, it's been 100%. And everybody that listened to the diamond tweeter was pleasantly surprised that it was a diamond tweeter and that it wasn't harsh and it didn't rip your head off.
I'm going to put Jay right here, my husband, on the hot spot. How does Goldman compare to Boulder and Griffin Apex?
Is that a question coming from you, honey, or is that a question from a...
No, it's a question coming from a viewer. Daryl asked that question.
What's his name?
Daryl.
He wants me to explain how those Boulder compare to Goldman?
Goldman to Boulder and Griffin.
Okay. Well, first of all, I made a video about my top five amplifiers, guys. I made a video about that to explain, the differences. But if you want me to kind of repeat myself, I have a soft spot for big power amplifiers. So it's no secret that I have the Apex as my number one. But as I said to Randy earlier, my number one could be your number three. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's just me personally, right? And Boulder is, again, same thing, massive American. Boulder is the Mack truck of America. Boulder is just large and in charge, right? I've always liked Boulder. Boulder is just highly resolving, and so is Goldman. But I do think that the level of technology and innovation with Goldman is just more advanced. That's not to say that Boulder doesn't have anything advanced. I want to make sure I say that. It's just that I think Goldman is building new technology within these amplifiers. And I think Boulder, their flagship stuff, as you guys know, has been out for almost 15 years. And of course, some of you may say, well, Jay, they don't want to swap out products every 3 years like most brands do, because that does a disservice to the consumer, which I agree with. When you have a quick turnaround and there is a new model every so often, to me, it confuses the customer and it pisses off a lot of customers, in my opinion, right? So that just means that you didn't do your best to give me what you knew at that point in time when you created that product. If you have a replacement soon after that, that just tells me you didn't do your job with the one you sold me, right? That's what that tells me. Now, but 15 years have passed. A lot has changed in 15 years. New parts, new capacitors, new transistors, wiring, you name it. And I think Boulder right now is long due for an upgrade. Now, I know the question has nothing to do with the Sonics, but I think that if you're asking me, Goldman tends to be as fast as Boulder, as clear, as transparent as Boulder, but it does it a little more softly, meaning it's kind of like when someone is being honest with you, but they don't really have to sound harsh and abrasive at telling you the truth. I think Goldman does a great job at putting a little bit of a filter on top. Boulder is more like raw when it comes to that delivery. And some may not like it because it may come off as clinical. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Sometimes when you're blunt, it's how you say it, what pisses people off. You can still tell the truth, just know how to lay it out. You see what I'm saying? Dish it out. I think these know how to dish it out in a much more controlled way, if that makes sense. When it comes to Griffin is just old school Class A design. From the Krell days when you worked at Krell, Griffin reminds me of that. So I think part of the reason why I'm attached to it is because it's just a very old school way of creating Class A amplifiers that unfortunately run very hot. Powerful, fast, although I dare to say that maybe the quickness and the high bandwidth of Goldman is quite apparent when you compare it to Griffin. But you can't really go wrong with either one of these three brands. It's really hard to say this is better than the other. I have a hard time telling you which is best for you if I don't really know your sound system and your and your current speaker selection. We've gotten to a point in which HiFi is so good that it's almost nearly impossible to make a mistake buying something that's not that great.
Well, and I think,
How do you feel about that?
I think that it's about what resonates for us. Let's compare the Griffin and the Goldman, since you brought it up. For me, the Griffin it's a great sounding product. First of all these products sound great.
Yep.
The thing for me, this is just what resonates with me, is that the Goldman for me is a better balance of all of the things. It has a sweetness that the Griffin doesn't have. The Griffin just for me is more aggressive, and for me that just doesn't appeal to me. And it doesn't mean it's bad. It just doesn't appeal to me. You used clinical with Boulder. To me Boulder sounds clinical. It's a little dry, and it doesn't have that emotional connection that I get from Goldman. Solution is another good thing, since we were talking about other things earlier. Solution, so people don't think I'm just picking Goldman because we sell it. I would pick a solution like that over Griffin because it appeals to me more than the Griffin. That aggressive hammer, as I'll call it, to me, it's just it's a presentation that's more aggressive, and that's not bad. That's why we do what we do.
So there are different types of systems, sound systems, and I've talked to a lot of audiophiles about this. Some audiophiles are all about, give me 30 to 45 minutes because I got stuff to do. Put an impressive performance in front of me, the holy shit effect, and I'm gone. I know I don't have enough time to get fatigued because I'm only there for 30 to 45 minutes, right? And there are others that say, I want to sit there for 3 hours because I'm retired. I got nowhere to be. Don't give me anything aggressive.
Well, and it's easy to get a system to sound great for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that the Griffin would sound bad in 3 hours. That's not my point. But I will say there are speakers I've heard in the past where I liked them at first, and then 3 hours later, I'm like, oh man, get me out of here. I want a system for me that I can listen to all day, and I'm not going to get tired of it, and I'm not going to start wanting to leave the room.
Well, I'm surprised. See, he's in the hot seat. He just told you what he thought about Boulder, his personal opinion, not to attack the brand. It's an opinion. If you see any boxes outside your doorstep tomorrow or next week that looks like a bomb, it might be a bomb, okay? Remember that.
Well, just remember, I like vanilla and you like chocolate, and we're both right.
Yes, agreed. So, we're all right. There's nothing wrong with it. Any other potential questions? Anything else that anybody may want to know?
This one is directed at you. Isn't it difficult to compare amplifiers when you don't have a constant in your system? Like, for example, those amazing Martins you have in the back of the room. Do you plan to have them? Do you plan to have a reference?
So I guess that's for me, and it's true. When you're changing so much, it's hard to gauge what each component is adding because you don't really spend enough time with the product to kind of sink your teeth into the system and understand what it truly tastes like, right? So I understand. So I'm going to answer it like this. The reason why I created 2 rooms is exactly to address that problem. This room is the room like a lab, a prettier lab than I had in Florida, where I can change stuff in and out. The reference is a lot more static. The reference is going to have the least amount of changes. The reference is going to be the room where I plan to have most products, I'd say not all, but at least 90% of the products will be there static for at least a year. Then changes happen if I find that there is something that I would rather have, okay? But that's why having 2 rooms for me has been part of the process, a key part of my business model, right? We can have here integrated, pull the Martins back in here, all day long we can do that in this room. I just want to avoid that in that other room because of that. Because when I am frustrated here, Randy, in this room, and I am just having a hard time with, like, I don't know if I told you this yesterday, I'll share it here live. One of the amps was buzzing, making a humming noise, right? And these amps have been on for 2 months, no hiccups, on 24/7, dead silent like they are right now, dead silent, right? And I'm like, oh my God, now what? What is going on? Why am I getting this, right? What have I changed over the last 24 hours that could have created that? And it dawned on me.
Your lights?
My lights.
Yeah.
The LED lights that we're using here, although they are in separate breakers, they're not on the same panel, somehow, some way made their way to me. Here's what's funny. I sat here, played music, and it went away. It hasn't done it ever since. I don't know what happened. So these are the things that I like to learn with my rooms and my systems. I enjoy that type of stuff, right? So when I go through these hurdles, I want to do them here. Once I'm fed up and frustrated, I want to go over there to go away from the madness here. I want to be there just to relax and enjoy. That's kind of the room that is going to make me say, that kind of makes me, hey, forget about that shit over there. Let me play some music for you. Relax, have a drink. That's what that system is over there. See what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
It's my cave. Is there anything else?
Wait, did you hear that? That sounds kind of like thunder. That's the 9800s.
That's the 9800s.
In the other room.
The 9800s.
That concussive
it's
sound.
thundering right now, guys. Here. It's coming. You hear thunders, real strong thunders here.
There's a thunderstorm.
Any other questions?
I think we've covered the main questions for the most part.
Yeah. Any last few thoughts, Randy? I know you got to go. I don't want to take up much more of your time. We've been doing this for over 2 hours now. So let's wrap it up on a good note. If you haven't.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I appreciate the questions and the respect, and I think that we can all talk to each other in a respectful manner, and we don't have to kind of get down in the dirt like some people do. And I appreciate that a lot, because it matters. All of this matters, and we, just because you like something different doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just different, and that's how it should be. And we need more of that in our industry, I think. And I appreciate you letting me be here.
Well, thank you for being with me, Randy. Thank you for supporting my channel, guys. Being part of this madness and really elevating my production. Okay, I have been preparing for this moment when I moved to Texas. You're the first guest that I have here in the hot seat, and I plan to have a lot more manufacturers and brand representatives, brand ambassadors here going forward. And so I wanted to give you this big opportunity, of course, because you have a lot in you that reminds me of me, if that makes sense. And hopefully the feeling is mutual.
Yes.
The black and white feeling that we both have and how we talk to each other is the reason why I think we can have the conversations we have just about every day.
Yeah.
So, on behalf of Jay's Audio Lab, of course, and my wife, we really appreciated you coming to our home and visit us. And hopefully we can do it again.
Yes, well, we will when the 9800s come in, as well as the integrated, the $26,000
Absolutely.
integrated. So,
absolutely. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for the live stream. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you really had fun here and you want to see more highly polished productions like this, you know what to do, right? Give me that like, subscribe to the channel, share this video. I'll talk to you guys soon. Stay tuned for more. Peace.
Thank you.